You are watching the video version of the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast. We are so glad that you are here. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can find the Marketing Should Be Fun show on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. But most of all, we're so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Well, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Should Be Fun. My name's Austin Savage. I'm the founder of Savage Content Collective, and I'm here with my good friend, Kelsey Sarko, the founder of Curate Social. Kelsey, welcome back to the podcast. Happy recording day.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here. It's going to be great.
I hear you're going to the country club after this.
Oh
very, very fun. You look like you're going to the country club, and I'm jealous. So how about it?
I mean, it's a very rainy day here, so I'm jealous of your hoodie and getting to stay home.
I would like to say, I don't think that you're not a member of the country club, but your client is. So you're benefiting from.
I am. Listen, it is important that you consider the perks you will receive from the clients you say yes to. Just kidding.
That's very true. For me, usually that's just like when they send me branded socks, that's something that really really brings me life. But I honestly only have one client who does that.
I'm happy for you. I don't have any branded socks, but occasionally I get to go to the country club and also get a facial. So, who's to say who's winning here?
True. And that's two different clients for you. So, wow, you're really winning. You're really winning the game over there.
This is so uncomfortable. Let's move on.
Okay. What is our this or that for today, Kelsey?
I'm excited for this one. It's very simple, but I actually don't know the answer. We are it's April 3rd as we record this. We just both finished spring break, right? You guys had spring break just recently?
Yeah, we did. I think it was last weekend.
Yeah.
It all blurs together.
Spring break is usually more than a weekend, but it's okay.
It was the whole week. Yes. So sorry. We took a trip over the weekend. So in my head.
Okay. Well, trips, often people will go away for spring break. Sometimes we don't. We did a staycation this year. But if you're traveling, are you window seat or aisle seat on an airplane?
Is this the part where I reveal my slowly growing fear of airplanes?
I was definitely like, we're going to need time. We're going to need time in the episode to talk about that one.
Slowly growing. We had like a terrible flight when we came back from Mexico a few years ago, and that started it. And now everybody at the FAA is getting fired. So I'm like, I can't ride on an airplane. So anyways, but I am definitely a window seat person. On one hand, want to see the sights, but on the other hand, I'm like so anxious on an airplane that I'm like, I have to know everything that's going on. And so I'm just like constantly like watching the wings, and I'm highly anxious on airplanes.
I'm sure that doesn't contribute to your anxiety at all, watching every little detail of what's happening.
It does. Yep. I know it's a terrible decision, but it's either that or I just isolate myself fully and, headphones and all the things. But what are you? What do you do?
That's fair. I kind of figured that you were a window seat person. I'm aisle seat. I need an exit.
No way.
I cannot sit trapped. Like, what if I don't know these people and I have to go to the bathroom, or I'm going to get sick or something?
Yes.
So don't worry. I have my own anxieties over here.
The bathroom anxiety is real. That's real.
Yeah. I'm like, I need to be able to get up quickly, and I like to have a little room. I don't like to be claustrophobic and stuck in there. Typically when we fly, if it's all four of our family, we typically fly planes that are like 2 and 3. So Matt and the kids will sit like in the row across from me, and then I'll sit across the aisle next to 2 strangers. So I also just like to be close to them. But yeah, that's mine.
Oh, that is fair. I have literally never. So like right when I graduated from college, I immediately started at a remote job, and I have literally worked remotely ever since then.
Yeah.
And so anytime I travel, that is another thing that I do worry about is I'm like, I can go to the bathroom anytime I want at home. And so my body is like, what is waiting? We have to wait for the flight to be over for this. And so, there are times where I consider the aisle seat just for that reason, because my body's confused.
Yeah. You don't want to have to be climbing over anybody. That would just be all sorts of uncomfortable and awkward.
On my last flight, we got upgraded to first class, and it was my first time ever in first class. And that was a game-changing experience.
It really is. Did you feel
nice.
less anxious?
I did. Yes. I don't know. Like, yeah, I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the free beer, but maybe it was something else.
Yeah, honestly, just the distraction of something new. But yeah, I've gotten to fly first class once too, and it's definitely a whole different ballgame. I'll add that to my list. I will fly first class while I get my facial at the country club.
Yeah, we need an airline client. That's really what we need.
Do we though? Do we? That sounds stressful. Sounds like a lot of public optics to spin a lot.
I was going to say, yeah, well, a lot of PR there for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm excited. This episode is the start of our spring cleaning series, just a little mini series. Again, I feel like this is kind of like a little vibe we're going with on the show. It's like some mini series on different topics. I think it's fun.
Yeah. I love a good theme. I'm here for it. The elementary school teacher in me it doesn't ever quite leave.
You do love a good theme. I didn't connect those two things.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. No wonder you're always like, what if we turned this into a series?
Could we have a whole bulletin board about it? Just kidding.
That would be fun. A nice visual for the video version.
Yeah.
But we've got all sorts of things that we want to talk about in this series. We're planning to cover today. We want to talk about spring cleaning for your mindset, which is kind of the foundation of really your marketing, but also just how you're growing your brand. In our next episode, we want to talk about spring cleaning for the platforms that you leverage and just the methods that you're using for those platforms. Then we want to talk about spring cleaning for your goals and what you're kind of like thinking for the vision of your marketing as a whole. So it's going to be a fun little series, just looking ahead to the rest of the year and thinking through, how can we really set ourselves up for success now as we're looking at some of the goals that we have set for the rest of the year. So should we dive in?
I think it's going to be just the perfect timing of when this episode is going to come out, this whole series for all the things as we just finished up the first quarter. We're almost to summer, which can be both amazing and crazy at the same time as a business owner. And so I think this is going to be the perfect little spot to land here, think through this before we head into the rest of the year.
I'm so excited. It is so fun. Right on theme. The 101 Affirmations series came out almost 2 years ago now. How crazy? A year and a half ago, I guess it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Time flies. But if you haven't checked out that series, I would deeply appreciate it. It is all about messages, just like we're going to be talking about today. You can go to savagecontent.co/books and find the series.
Make sure you read the forewords too. I mean, they're just some of the best.
They are honestly the best
pieces of writing ever.
Truly glorious pieces of writing, which Kelsey wrote, if you didn't know. But very, very excited for this topic today. So what we wanted to do just with this episode is give you some messages that are not helpful, that are very common for business owners or just people who are, creating content to kind of repeat to themselves. And we want to give you phrases that you can use to replace those messages with phrases that are more helpful. And as with any information that you receive from any podcast or, anyone you follow, you can adapt these phrases. You can, shift them to make sense for you, shift the voice of them to make more sense for your life, your situation. But the hope here is to kind of help you acknowledge and kind of notice the messages that you're telling yourself that aren't helpful, and really be intentional as you are, setting yourself up for success for the rest of the year. Like we talked about, really being intentional about what you're replacing those messages with.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Well, let's start with our first one. This is something we hear from people a lot, and it is this message: I don't have a voice worth hearing. And so if we're going to apply our spring cleaning methods to this, let's clean that up to instead, you could say something like, I can embrace who I am. My voice and presence is a gift to the world. This makes me even think of way back in the day when we worked together, Austin, and we sent out some client gifts with mugs with like this really fun quote on it about like the world, needs, what was the actual wording of it?
The world needs your dream. Yeah. Throwback. Yeah, love it.
Yes. But I just think of that with, instead of you don't have a voice worth hearing, I love to tell people like, imagine the world if we didn't have your voice in it. Like think about all the things that you bring to the table and who you are and, what you're gifted with. And so replace that, clean it up. And this is a practice. You do have to practice telling yourself this is true, but it is true.
Yes, yes. And I feel like this one like can come in so many forms of like that a not helpful message. It is, kind of rare in some ways for somebody to actually say like, I don't have a voice worth hearing. But like that comes in so many forms, where I know you and I both will be on calls with people who, will say things like, there's so many other people who would be better at this than me.
Yep.
Or I'm just not skilled in like this specific way, like a lot of other people in the industry are. And they're just these little things that really at the core are saying this, like, I don't have a voice worth hearing. And man, what a powerful, talk about the foundation of your marketing. What a powerful shift when you can move from, not believing in the power of your voice to shifting that and acknowledging that like your voice is valuable and the world does need your voice and that the world is better for it when you are kind of living into your passion and your vision.
So good. Okay. Second one. Another thing that you may be telling yourself, or you may be believing, even if you're not saying these exact words,
Yes,
is the world is too oversaturated for there to be room for my idea. Think about that for a minute and the ways that you've maybe told yourself that. And instead, what if you shifted it to the world is filled with the opportunity to make my dream possible? My voice is inherently unique. Love that, which sets me apart. Austin, what comes to mind for this one?
Oh, so many things. But do you know how often we hear that about the world is
All
too
the time.
oversaturated or like my industry is too oversaturated? All the time, all the time. I know people say it like about social specifically. They're like social is just like too oversaturated. There's too much content out there. Like my content is never going to get through. Or it's just like there's already enough people, who are talking about like this topic. And that's not true. And we really like box ourselves into this perspective and limit ourselves from making a difference in people's lives or in the industry that we are trying to make a difference in. Shifting that perspective away from this world is too oversaturated towards acknowledging the uniqueness of your voice. I just personally, I think that is so important and so true, that you really are inherently unique, and your take, your gifts, the way that you approach the topic that you're trying to create content around or trying to build a business around, that is inherently going to set you apart from your competitors or who from other people who are already creating content in the space. You are unique, therefore your content is unique, and therefore your content has a place in the world.
Yes. I think of even putting these first two together, just the power that could happen from you believing you have a voice.
Yes.
So therefore it's not too oversaturated because your voice matters and your voice isn't out there yet. I see this all the time there are so many people in the same exact industry that I'm even creating content for. But when we put their unique spin on it, it's different. And so you find your people and they find you. And I think you and I super vulnerably can also attest to this of like, the world is not too oversaturated for both of us to be offering some of the same types of services or be in the same world and still get to partner on it and share ideas. And, both of us are reaching different people that are unique to just who we care about and what we want to offer and the ways that we resonate with people. And so I see this one to be so true.
Totally. Yeah, it's fascinating. Even just looking at the two of us of like, we do have services that are the same. We do have services that are different too.
Yep.
Our content that, the content that you create, the content that I create, very different different styles and feels and vibes.
Yep.
It's fun and it works for both of us. Like we both are able to connect with our ideal client types, and even like just thinking about marketing as a whole. I mean, that space, you want to talk about a space that could be considered oversaturated. Yeah. It's absolutely a space like that. And even so, there is still plenty of space for the encouragement, the tactics, the, all of the different types of content that you and I are creating. Oversaturated is not something that needs to limit you from pursuing your dream, pursuing your vision. All right, that leads us to our third one. Another kind of unhelpful statement or belief is that I need to consider what other people will think of me. So many ways that can kind of play out, but this kind of fear of what other people will think, limiting us from creating content. We can replace that belief or replace that fear with this statement that my value and my identity are not defined by what other people want for my life. Kelsey, what comes to mind?
This one is a big one that I struggle with personally. And so I can relate to this so much. Instead of I need to consider what other people will think of me, I've spent a lot of time thinking just the opposite side of like, how can I serve people? Or how can, I be authentic to my voice? And not believing most of the time. Sometimes people are mean, and sure, they might think bad things about us, but most of the time it's the stories we're making up in our head that we're assuming and filling the gaps with. And so much of this one with my spring cleaning, if you will, for me, is just reminding myself what's true, and not filling in stories with assumptions, and just focusing on what I can bring and what I can offer, and just who I am versus worrying about what they are thinking of me.
Yeah. I was literally just talking to a client yesterday, and they were kind of like joking about this fear a little bit. Like they were like, if we posted that, like people would think I'm, so like, so I think they used the word stupid. And, it's just like this opportunity to be like, okay, hold on. Like, I know we're joking, but like, that's also not true. And we're not going to talk like that because people, one, are not thinking that. And, people are able to make decisions all the time for the type of content that, fits for their life and the type of content that doesn't. It is not a value, judgment on who you are or your, value to the world. People unfollowing you or choosing to, listen to different voices is just a decision for their life and what makes sense for them. And so I think this is such an easy thing to get caught up in those stories that we're telling ourselves of, I can't post this because it has this mistake in it, or it's, not exactly what I envisioned, because we're fearful of what people will think of us, when so often it's just a story that we're telling ourselves in our head. And honestly, those mistakes and things that we get caught up on, or the things that we see as imperfections, are usually the things that are going to help connect us to our audience, or are going to help create those opportunities for engagement. So that fear is often just not completely warranted as we're trying to grow a brand. Much more helpful to look within ourselves and be honest about, what is true about who we are and what we're trying to create. And does the content reflect that?
Yeah. I see this all the time with social clients, especially. I think it's easy to get caught up in this anywhere, but especially on social media, when so much of it is like very up close and in your face of like you sharing your life. You are not, your value and identity are also not defined by likes, follows, comments, any of that. It is helpful information. It is not identity deciding factors. And so this one is a big one, as is our next one, which is, I don't have time. I think all of us could relate to saying this, and especially when it comes to our content. This is where I'm living right now. And this is the one I have to focus on so much for me personally, of I am creating everyone else's content. So it is really easy for me to say, I just don't have time to create my own. And that is not true. A truth that we can switch this up to is rather to say, my ideas can't impact the world until they're acted on. For me too, it's also, my content is worth sharing. And if I'm choosing not to, I'm effectively saying this doesn't matter to me. Now, there are seasons to decide, this doesn't matter most to me right now. That's okay. But there's also seasons where it's important to really give yourself an honest look at, am I saying that I don't have time, or am I just saying this isn't important to me right now? And I love the way we even shared the idea of, if you say I don't have time, try switching that to my ideas can't impact the world, and see how that feels different, of tapping into that passion and that belief in what you're doing and what you want to offer people. There's no impact unless you do make the time to share the content.
Yes. I just had a coaching call with our mutual friend, Emily Schwalbach. We had her on the podcast. I mean, it was probably episode 4 or something.
It was so early on. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. But her big thing is finding your minimum. And we talked about that in that past podcast episode. I kind of got to a place recently just with this same thing. I was like, I just feel like I don't have time with my content and what I am wanting to do. I'm too focused on everything else. And, I'm struggling to kind of get that momentum back. And kind of coming back to that place of like, okay, let's clarify the vision. Like, what are we trying to go for? But also like come back to like, what's realistic? Like, are you trying to do too much? Is that what is kind of causing this feeling of I don't have time? And then let's reground ourselves in the truth that your ideas can impact the world. but they can't make a difference in people's lives. People can't connect with you. People can't understand your business unless you are sharing about it, unless you're talking about it, telling stories, all of these things. And so I think this truth is just such a good one of my ideas can't impact the world until they're acted on. And so even if you're lowering your frequency, even if you're changing what it means, to create content or to market your business, still understanding the importance and kind of reordering where you're putting that on your list of importance can make such a difference in how well you can connect with the people you're trying to connect with.
So good. I would go back and listen to that episode if you're listening to this one and that's the one that resonates with you. Yes, you can make time, but there's also some really practical, helpful ways to do that in a way that doesn't just feel like this burden on your shoulders all over again.
All right, that leads us to our next one here, which another common one, honestly. And this is a phrase I don't think that people will specifically say, but I do think it's a belief that you and I both commonly see. But this kind of message that we tell ourselves is that the algorithm is out to get me. The algorithm is out to get me. Nothing I'm doing is working. I don't know if we still hear this language, but I'm shadow banned was another one for like a really big
yes.
one.
Forgot about that.
Like big time. But we can shift that message that we're telling ourselves to this, that I can both change my methods and enjoy the content I create. Just some initial thoughts, I think, from, kind of what I see is I think often when we get into this place of the algorithm is out to get me, it can feel like I'm trying the same thing and it's not working anymore. And it used to work. And this is really frustrating. And like, it's just this very human, kind of dilemma of like, I really liked what we were seeing there for a while, and having to come to this place of acknowledging that we might have to shift in some ways to better connect with the people that we, were previously connecting with, or to connect with new people. And that can be a painful process to acknowledge that and try new things and go through the trial and error of like, this works, this doesn't, this works, this doesn't. But to acknowledge and recognize that truth that I can change my methods. And even if it's different than what it has been, I can still enjoy what I'm creating, can really be a difference maker.
I hear this one all the time of like, it's the algorithm. What is the algorithm doing? What is happening? I'm like, everybody take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. And there is some truth to this. Do I have a list of requests that I would love to put in front of the head of Instagram? Absolutely, I do. But at the end of the day, I always think about the big picture of, they are giving you a free app to just get in here and talk to whoever you want to. And there are some really basic principles we can adopt that can help with that. Yes. It's always good to, I feel like, being in the Instagram world for, I don't even know, 9 years now is kind of when from way back when I started marketing my own self on Instagram to then moving into helping others. It's a riding the waves thing. I see it happen often where it's like something works really well. And then we're like, ooh, this feels uncomfortable and it's not working anymore. Let's panic and decide we should burn our whole business down. Nope. Let's just keep doing what we were doing, tweak a few things. So I love the way we kind of worded that of, yes, there might be some shifts and changes we need to make just practically with our methods, with best practices, but not in a way that makes us forget to or stop enjoying what we're creating. And I was even talking to a client this morning right before we recorded this she got a message from a client that said like, hey, I love following you. I started following you last year because so-and-so tagged you. I love how encouraging your content is. And I just bought whatever the thing, like it was a pretty big thing that it was multiple $100s that she was selling. And so it was just such a good reminder to me too, of like, it is the long game. There is no other way to say it. The algorithm is not out to get us. It may be frustrating, but when we stick in there and keep sharing authentically in ways that we enjoy, the people find us and the paths get taken. And we just really don't have a whole lot of control over that otherwise.
Totally. And I love your idea of the waves. Like it's like also just acknowledging that there is an algorithm, I think sometimes is helpful. Is like, it's not out to get you, but sometimes it might impact the reach of your content. And sometimes there's just so many factors of what that could be. It could be the style, but it also like, I know you do a ton of testing with like times and, things like that. Of like, it could be as simple as the time that piece of content went out. The algorithm is not out to get you. There are things that you can change. This is the long game. You're going to have content that has further reach than others. And that is all normal. That is all okay. Take what you can from it. and shift what you need to, but stay consistent.
Yeah. It's just a tool. It's a piece of information.
Yes. All right. That leads us again to our next one here. This is a really common one. A few different industries may become front of mind for me, but an unhelpful belief that a lot of us hold with our marketing or with creating content is that I need to be an expert for people to value my voice. I hear this all the time in different ways, but we can clean that perspective to this, that I am enough, who I am now, I am enough. People want to be part of my journey. And I love that word, journey. Yep. People don't just want to hear this story of how you became an expert. They want to be part of your story. They want to be part of your journey. They want to be part of your growth. What comes to mind for you?
What comes to mind for me is the reel that's going viral right now. That's the one where she doesn't know it yet, but blah, 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 blah. And it's all clips of like kind of where you came from, or like she doesn't know it yet, but sharing, you know, her coffee and her marketing strategy every day on her Instagram is going to lead her to XYZ. Just go look it up. You'll see it, but it's proof that we want to see where you came from. We want to know all the struggle. We want to know the stories. You know why? Because we have struggle and we have stories, and people want to connect in a human way. That's why they're on social media. That's why they're on any platform, because they want to connect. So it just made me think of that, of we don't just want the expert. We want the journey. We want the story. We want the human feel. We are storied creatures. There's so much data and research on. We want to know the whole beginning, middle, and end, the protagonist, the struggle, the conflict. And I think this, hopefully, when we can adopt this mindset and when we can believe it, it takes a lot of weight off our shoulders. Of you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be you. And to remember that you probably are more of an expert than you think you are. You and I could both talk for days about the types of pieces of content that have gone viral, that it's like, oh, you just wanted that really tiny tip that I thought everybody understood. And no one knew that. So you know more than you think you do. And it's okay to let people in on the journey.
So good. In the words of Kelsey Zarko, put it on a t-shirt. I love it. The next one honestly connects so well to this idea of needing to be an expert. I think another fear that people often feel, or a message that we tell ourselves, is that I need to be perfect. And I mean, man, what a connection to that idea of being an expert, of like, I have to know everything. I have to be perfect. But we can clean this perspective to who I am completely is my most valuable asset. Who you are is your most valuable asset. Not in some future version of who you are, but who you are now. It matters greatly to your content and to your brand. But I'll throw it again to you, Kelsey. What comes to mind?
Yeah, definitely that. And even if you wouldn't say out loud, I need to be perfect, but you would say my content needs to be perfect. There's some of that weaving together here. Yes. Do I want to put out reels that have spelling mistakes in them? No. So I understand you know, if you're saying, but I need it to be perfect. What I think you're saying is you want it to be professional. You want it to be real, respectable. That's perfectly okay for you to want, but to need to be perfect, to have no way for anyone to maybe like hurt you or be able to point out something in you that you're afraid of. That's such a deeper thing that probably we could talk a whole nother episode on another time. But it's a wrong belief about yourself, that who you are is enough. We will talk about this one too. And that you bring value, just like we said before, your story, your journey, your struggles. It's going to give people ways to relate to you that are going to be really powerful.
Yeah. I know I've talked about this like quite a bit on the podcast and some other episodes we've had about confidence and just like, you know, believing in yourself. But I think this fear of needing to be perfect, you know, I like this kind of image of like, it often causes us to try to hide ourselves from being part of our content. And this is often when we see, you know, just like these little shifts from brands where, you know, they try to not be involved in the content. So they're like, let's share like graphics, let's share like other things that like don't feature me, don't feature like my voice, or, you know, specifically feature our team, or, you know, whatever it is. And it's from this place of insecurity often of like, I don't want to be seen as, you know, not perfect, or be seen as, you know, some way that is not true. And when we hide ourselves from our content, from our marketing, it actually limits our effectiveness and it limits the ability that people have to connect with us. And so instead shifting this perspective to I'm enough, who I am is my most valuable asset, can actually help us lead with our personality, lead with our voice, and really further the reach that our company or our organization can have, again, with the people we're trying to reach.
Yeah. We could give you data point upon data point of, you know what, posts will do the best for your company? The ones that have you in them. So just think about that.
Every time.
Every time. Okay. Well, we're almost done. We have one more to share. And this one, you gotta put your own spin on it a little bit, but it's, I am too blank. And you could fill in the blank. There's probably something that comes to your mind right now. I am too much. I am too dramatic. I am too quiet. I am too
young.
Old. Yeah, any of that. Instead, clean that to I am exactly who I need to be to pursue what I hope to accomplish in the world. Talk about this one, Austin.
I remember a call that you and I were on years ago. And
I'm thinking of the same one.
It was with somebody who was launching such a fun brand. It was a brand for like kids' toys. And it was like, the brand was awesome. She had such a passion and like, it was like contagious. I remember like being excited on the call. And I remember her specifically saying, I am too old. And it was around this idea of creating content. And I really like kind of leaving the blank there a little bit because, you know, really take a moment if you're listening to fill in that blank. Like, what is that message that you're telling yourself of even something like I am too inconsistent. I am too distracted. I know like I tell myself that sometimes just, struggling with ADHD. That is something that really limits my view of myself and limits my ceiling in a lot of ways as I'm kind of creating my own box through the messages I'm telling myself. And so I love this shift to, again, acknowledge that you are exactly who you need to be to accomplish what you want to accomplish. You don't need to be somebody different to move forward towards the vision that you have for the world or your organization, your business. Like that vision is within you for a reason. You have that passion and that desire to see the world impacted or to see people's lives impacted through what you do for a reason. You have the skills and perspectives that you need to make that difference in the world and to move forward towards that vision in your own unique way.
Another one, put it on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt.
I love this episode. I would encourage you, if you're listening, to pick one or two. You already know the ones that you were like, that's me, or the one that got you. So just pick one or two, think about them, maybe even write it down in a new way that you want to tell yourself that story or that message and stick it on your computer, on your mirror, wherever it is. It's easy to listen to this and think, yeah, great. I got to go do the next thing on my list. But these things really matter. They impact how we show up in the world, how we share our content, how we offer ourselves and our brand to the people that we want to connect with. And so we're going to get to the practicals next episode on spring cleaning our platforms. But start here because I think this matters more than we think it does.
I love it. We are so grateful that you are here listening to us, and we will see you right back here on the next episode of Marketing Should Be Fun.